G'day ladies and gentlemen, my name is Tony Walsh and I am the Council of Defence Materiel in Washington. One of my roles is to promote Australia's innovative and high-tech defence industry to the US government and US suppliers. I want to emphasise today that Australian industry has leading capabilities on offer for the US and we welcome opportunities for increasing our industrial partnerships. My talk today will discuss our strategic guidance and our government's commitment to delivering capability, our focus on industrial capability priorities, our support for industry through the Global Supply Chain Program, of which Leidos is a member, the challenges of supply chain resilience, which are vital for us all, and the industrial-based collaboration and export opportunities for both the US and Australia. I'll provide some examples and vignettes on Australian industry success stories in the US and close by briefly outlining new opportunities for deepening our ties. Let me start by saying Australian industry has world-class capabilities on offer to the US, as the two countries can work together to ensure readiness and address supply chain issues. Australia is making significant investments into its defence capabilities, with stable, long-term commitments to invest at least 270 billion Australian dollars across the 2020 to 2030 decade to strengthen our defence capabilities in an environment of increasing strategic competition. The Australian Government is also committed to building our defence industry to deliver our investment program and to achieve our objectives. Since 2016, defence industry has been recognised as a fundamental input to capability. Our fundamental inputs to capability are like the US .MLPFP. These are used to determine requirements when developing new capabilities. Having industry included in these fundamental inputs to capability means we must include industry considerations throughout the entire capability process, from concept through to disposal. And we recognise that due to the size of our industrial base and the smaller ADF demands, Australia will never be fully self-reliant. We'll always be reliant on foreign partners like the US for certain high-end systems and capabilities. We are keen to work closely with both the US government and US industry to meet Australia's security needs and deepen our alliance with the US. For that reason, we are focusing our efforts on the areas of greatest importance for the ADF. These are our sovereign industrial capability priorities, which have the lovely acronym SICPs. The initial SICPs are combat clothing survivability and signature reduction technologies, munitions and small arms research, design, development and manufacturing, land combat vehicle and technology upgrades, aerospace platform deeper maintenance and structural integrity, enhanced active phased array radar and a passive radar capability, advanced signal processing, surveillance and intelligence, test, evaluation, certification and systems assurance, the continuous shipbuilding program, and the Collins-class submarines maintenance and technology upgrade. Australia's defence industry policy and these SICPs are continuously reviewed to ensure they remain fit for purpose in supporting our industry partners to deliver defence capability. Defence has developed and will continue to develop industry plans that provide guidance on these specific industrial capabilities that we require Australian industry to deliver in support of the ADF. These plans provide business and industry with the information they need to support planning and investment activities to ensure they are aligned with Defence's capability needs. Through the focus on these SICPs, we will build a stronger, more sustainable and more secure defence industrial base in these areas with a view for potential exports to like-minded countries. I would encourage any business working in these high priority areas to consider Australian defence industry as part of their supply chains. Our policy states that any program must maximise Australian industry policy. This will help us build resilience, redundancy and complementarities between Australian and US industrial bases. Ultimately, we want to develop an industry that acts as an extension of the US industrial base and meets our preparedness or readiness requirements. We are not seeking to compete with the US industry, but rather to augment it. I now turn to the Global Supply Chain Program. Our Global Supply Chain Program helps to build the international capability of Australian defence industry businesses by opening up new market opportunities and reducing reliance on Australia's small domestic defence market. The program is a key, long-standing export initiative that identifies opportunities for Australian companies in international supply chains of 8 multinational defence companies, including Leidos, BAE Systems, Boeing, Lockheed Martin, Northrop Grumman, Raytheon, Rheinmetall and Thales. These 8 prime contractors participate in the global supply chain program and also provide mentoring and prime-specific training. They also facilitate site visits and meetings with key defence program of record personnel. This includes participating in Team Defence Australia activities such as US-based trade shows and working with the Australian Government's International Trade Promotion and Investment Attraction Agency, Austrade, to identify additional opportunities. All contracts awarded to Australian businesses are won on merit, and the majority of contracts awarded are for niche technologies and products. This helps to create stronger and longer lasting relationships between the primes and small businesses, which may lead to a business expanding overseas and to longer term and higher value contracts. Since 2007 and the inception of the global supply chain, participating prime contractors have awarded over 1,700 contracts worth around 1.5 billion Australian dollars to predominantly small and medium businesses in Australia. I would note that on 21 July, it was announced the Global Supply Chain program would be the subject of an independent review as part of a push to reform defence industry support programs to increase the opportunities for Australian small businesses in Australia and overseas. This review will enable Defence to provide further, more targeted support to Australian businesses wanting to work with multinational defence companies. The review and its recommendations are expected to be delivered to the Government in October. I now want to speak a little more about building industrial sovereignty and resilient supply chains. There is no doubt our strategic environment is becoming increasingly challenging and complex. Military modernisation in the Indo-Pacific, the increased prevalence of grey zone activities, reduced warning times, and intensified major power competition have each emphasised the need to secure our supply chains to enhance our preparedness or readiness. Further to this, the COVID-19 pandemic has greatly impacted the business environments for countries all over the world, highlighting gaps and vulnerabilities in supply chains. As a result, most countries, including Australia and the US, are increasing their industrial sovereignty and securing their supply chains. In April 2021, Australia adopted a whole-of-government framework for identifying and mitigating supply chain risks in areas critical to the national interest. The Australian Government also agreed to establish an Office of Supply Chain Resilience, housed in our Department of the Prime Minister and Cabinet. This office was established to monitor vulnerabilities and coordinate whole-of-government responses to improve ongoing access to essential goods. International collaboration is an early priority for the office because risks to critical global supply chains won't be solved through domestic actions alone. As both President Biden's 100-day reviews and the House Armed Services Committee's reports also found, no one country can shoulder the cost, risk and complexity of acting alone to establish alternate supply chains for critical and emerging technologies. There is a need to focus on the areas of greatest criticality as well as partnering with trusted allies. Partnering activities offer opportunities to share resource and expertise to reduce risks and accelerate the mutually beneficial outcomes. This brings me to the importance of Australian-US industrial collaboration to the Alliance. We believe there are significant opportunities for increasing industrial partnerships between Australia and the US. The importance of industrial-based collaboration within the Alliance cannot be understated. Our ability to expand our current collaborative frameworks with the US and other like-minded partners will serve as a distinct advantage in our increasingly complex strategic environment. Consequently, we see technological and industrial-based collaboration as a key marker of the Alliance moving into the future. Our strategic geography and key alliance status make Australia an obvious partner for closer industrial-based integration. While Australia is already included in the US National Technical and Industrial Base, the NTIB, and this is testament to the focus both our countries place on industrial cooperation. The rationale behind Australia and the UK's recent inclusion was to support US supply chain gaps and vulnerabilities. Representatives of the NTIB partner countries recently agreed to develop a supply chain resilience working group to better support these goals. This will include identifying areas for potential international co-investment. The NTIB is a key lever through which we can identify and plug gaps, weaknesses and vulnerability in our supply chains. We need to give greater effect to the NTIB to fully realise the strategic benefit it offers. Australia is working through various other bilateral and multilateral discussions, including AUSMIN, to advance mutually beneficial outcomes to support global supply chain resilience and industrial-based collaboration. For example, Australia's industrial and export capability is a key focus. Our industry has a lot to offer US supply chain diversification. Under the modern Australian Government Modern Manufacturing Initiative, we are investing more than $1 billion into scaling up Australian manufacturing to become more competitive and resilient. And the 2018 Defence Export Strategy acknowledges that exports are a key element of building a sovereign defence industry. That is why Australia provides a range of support to Australian defence industry companies seeking to export. This includes dedicated positions in Austrade focused on defence industry. These positions work as part of the government approach to supporting Australian defence industry. One of the key roles of these positions is to assist Australian companies to identify and partner with local industry. Australian companies offer high-tech, innovative solutions to modern capability challenges, including technology such as autonomous systems, counter-drone technology, soldier combat systems, C4ISR, artificial intelligence and cybersecurity. They also offer services such as maintenance, repair and overhaul, design and engineering, training and education, and through-life support. Australian defence industry has a proven record of developing world-leading capabilities. It's interoperable with the US, our wider Five Eyes allies and NATO partners, has a reputation for being transparent and reliable, and is open for business. To demonstrate, let me begin with an excellent example of an innovative Australian company, Marathon Targets, a global leader in providing autonomous robotic targets to militaries and law enforcement worldwide. Some history. Marathon Targets started in 2008 as a collaboration between the University of Sydney and Australian Special Forces. Their first big export opportunity was a foreign comparative test contract in 2010 with the US DoD, through which they delivered robots to the Marine Corps. In 2019, Marathon Targets established their US facility in Huntsville, Alabama, where they now do partial manufacturing. They now employ approximately 80 people worldwide, the majority of whom are in the US, and their US team is around 85% combat veterans. Marathon's robots have clocked over 70,000 kilometres of autonomous driving and received millions of hits, with many millions of rounds fired. The Australian Government has provided significant support to Marathon Targets over the years. In 2009, during their start-up phase, they were awarded a Commercialising Emerging Technologies grant. And the Australian Government continues their support of Marathon Targets innovation. In 2019, our Defence Innovation Hub signed a $1 million Australian contract with Marathon Targets to develop a prototype unmanned, realistic and self-propelled vehicle target to support ADF training against improvised fighting vehicles. Following the successful completion of this contract, in January 2021, the Innovation Hub again awarded the company a follow-on contract valued at Australian dollars 1.6 million to further develop and test the technology. This proof of concept vehicle is currently in the US, where it's being trialled with the US Army's Ranger Regiment in early August 2021. Marathon Targets now has robots on 4 continents. In the US, their robots are on all major US Marine Corps continental ranges, and as well as in Hawaii and Okinawa in Japan. And these robots are regularly used by US Army Special Operations Command, the 75th Ranger Regiment, and others. As noted, the US base for Marathon is in Huntsville, Alabama, and they are now hiring at the US Marine Corps Gulf 36 range at Camp Lejeune, North Carolina. Marathon Targets' innovative capabilities have helped develop the highest level of moving marksmanship. They encourage soldiers to anticipate natural movement and interpret situations. Their target systems drive combat efficiency by rapidly developing skills in combat marksmanship. For example, the US Marine Corps test and evaluation activities determined that soldiers achieved a 104% increase in combat accuracy within a 24-hour period working with Marathon's robotic targets. And in addition, the US Army's Research Institute measured a 3.7 time improvement in their soldiers' capability. I also now want to talk to you about Australia's industry policy framework. As Marathon Targets demonstrates, I now turn to some further examples of Australian success in the US market. Australian companies have a strong record of providing cutting-edge capability in US supply chains and directly to the US military. For example, Burden is a family-owned marine engineering and services company. It's based in the beautiful coastal town of Port Macquarie in New South Wales and provides a diverse range of services. These include shipbuilding and repair, engineering, contracting services and disposal. Following Burden's success in delivering the Australian Army's own bridge erection patrol boats, Burden secured multi-million-dollar contracts with the US DoD and the Department of Homeland Security. These included a contract valued at up to US $191 million to carry out an upgrade of the US Coast Guard fleet of 47-foot motor lifeboat vessels, and a 5-year extension of Burden's existing contract to supply bridge erection boats to the US Army, worth up to $199 US. Burden has received financial support for these efforts from Export Finance Australia, which enabled them to establish their new manufacturing facility in Denver, Colorado, and to grow in the US market. Burden continues to strengthen its reputation as a reliable contractor in the competitive US market, having recently, as in March 2021, been awarded a US $17.8 million contract with the US Navy. You are probably all aware of CEA Technologies. They specialise in the design, development and manufacture of radar and communications technologies. They are based in Canberra with offices in Adelaide, Melbourne, Perth and San Diego. CEA primarily supplies the ADF and the US Navy with its CEA vessel traffic services, CFAR surveillance, CFAR illuminator and CTAC radar systems. Chironics, a Perth-based artificial intelligence and robotics specialist, is gaining traction with the US Navy. In late 2018, Chironics won an international contract with the US Navy to help develop a medical evacuation robot for injured servicemen. Chironics has since delivered a customised offering with a major defence prime to the US Navy. The Australian Government has supported Chironics' export readiness through the 2019 San Francisco Dual-Use Landing Pad Program, a joint Austrade, Department of Defence and Commonwealth Science and Industrial Research Organisation initiative driven by the Australian Government's 2018 Defence Export Strategy. Casada is a Sydney-based company which may be familiar to some in the audience. Casada has developed a bot mitigation software as a service platform to protect customers from sophisticated bot attacks in real time. The platform accurately identifies and stops malicious automation before it is ever allowed to enter the infrastructure. Following a successful proof of concept undertaken by the Leidos US Tearline project team in mid-January 2021, the National Geospatial Intelligence Agency shared very good results from using Casada's technology and promptly implemented a 33-month contract. Leidos' global supply chain team created the opportunity by looking for an internet-facing program that could benefit from Casada's technology. Leidos' global supply chain team helped also quantify the opportunity, broker the engagements, support the proof of concept and subsequent contract negotiations as required. Casada's capability is starting to gain international recognition, now with offices in New York, Boston, San Francisco and London. Partnerships such as these between Australian and US local defence industry will assist in growing US innovative capabilities and achieving its defence and industrial goals. These examples show that Australian innovation can deliver for US needs, and it's clear we all need to work together as we face new and more difficult challenge. To that end, it would be remiss of me not to briefly mention the latest initiative from the Australian Government. On 31 March, our Prime Minister announced the accelerated creation of a $1 billion sovereign guided weapons and explosive ordnance enterprise to support a domestic guided weapons capability. A guided weapons capability will help to meet the ADF's requirements in a changing strategic environment. As you may be aware, Defence recently ran a request for information process seeking industry views to inform the development of the enterprise. The RFI sought industry input on a range of topics, including the construct of the enterprise, the role of industry partners, and the capabilities of Australian small to medium-sized businesses. Defence is currently reviewing the responses. We believe the enterprise will offer a range of strategic commercial benefits to the US and to US industry. To conclude, Australia is open for business and we welcome Australian-US industrial collaboration. Australia's innovative and high-tech defence industry offers solutions to US capability challenges. Should you be interested in more information about working with Australian defence industry in the US, please engage with our defence industry team in our embassy, starting with me and Alexandra Berger, our defence industry in Washington director. His email address is alexander.berger@defence.gov.au. That is alexander.berger@defence.gov.au. You can also refer to the Australian Defence Sales Catalogue and or contact the Australian Defence Export Office. If you would like further information about investing in the Australian market, please approach Austrade through austrade.gov.au. I'd like to thank you for your attention today and wish you all of the success in your ongoing endeavours. Thanks very much.